Tonight, 3 members of a Tijeras family are dead.
Yeah, I'm gonna need some backup.
Unit 1, stand by for good.
How brazen was this killer?
And this is a case that goes beyond just the absolutely gruesome scene deputies found in the East Mountains yesterday.
They are still moving, even after the gunshots. The words sound impossible, yet they set the tone for a case unlike any other.
On October 13th, 2024, in a quiet Florida home, deputies found 24-year-old Adlai Mestre with bloodied hands and a pistol.
He claimed his family attacked him, then rose after death. Inside the house, pools of blood, scattered weapons, and silence told a different story.
But bodies dragged outside deepen the mystery. Was this self-defense, madness, or something darker? Today, through exclusive interviews and crime scene analysis, we uncover the Mestre family tragedy and the chilling truth behind Adlai's break with reality. The call from a neighbor. The first sign that something was terribly wrong did not come from inside the Mestre home. It came from next door. At around 1:45 in the afternoon, a neighbor named Daniel decided he could no longer ignore the unease building inside him. He picked up his phone and dialed 911. His tone was steady, but every word carried hesitation, as if he was still unsure whether his fears were real. He explained that earlier in the day, he had heard what sounded like 5 or 6 sharp cracks echoing across the quiet neighborhood. At first, he told himself it could have been something ordinary, maybe fireworks or even a car backfiring. But then came another sound, a single shot that broke the air with force. For nearly an hour and a half, he tried to shake the thought away. He texted the family who lived there but received no reply. He tried calling, but the phone only rang. Finally, he drove to the house and honked his horn several times, waiting for someone to appear. Nothing. The silence was too much. Daniel could not ignore it any longer. When he called dispatch, he said he may have been paranoid, but he could not take the risk of staying quiet. He explained that the family who lived there was kind, long-time tenants of his property. He had rented to them for years without trouble, but now, with unanswered calls and unexplained gunfire, Daniel feared the worst. His decision set everything in motion. Deputies arrive at the scene. When deputies pulled up to the house, the air was still. Nothing looked unusual from the outside. The home was quiet, the yard empty. But on the driveway stood a young man. 24-year-old Adlai Mestre waited with a pistol in his waistband and blood on his hands. His eyes shifted nervously as the deputies approached. They asked if he had a weapon, and he admitted that he did. They disarmed him quickly and began to ask questions. His answers did not bring comfort. He told them his family had rushed him with weapons, that he had no choice but to defend himself. He claimed his father had a knife, his sister a hammer. But then his words turned strange. He said their bodies had healed, that they shook after death. The deputies exchanged uneasy glances. Something was deeply wrong here, and they knew it. Adlai's first words. Sitting on the curb in handcuffs, Adlai spoke quickly, his thoughts tangled. He said his parents and his younger sister tried to enter his room. He claimed his father carried a knife, his sister held a sledgehammer, and his mother told him he needed to die. Adlai said he fired his gun, striking them. Yet what he described next unsettled the deputies even more. He insisted that after being shot, their bodies moved, their wounds sealed, and their mouths foamed dark liquid. He repeated that something unnatural had taken place, asking the deputies if they had seen it too. The officers tried to steady him, but his eyes darted, his voice rose, and his words slipped between fear, guilt, and something no one could quite understand. Blood and silence in the house. The deputies turned their attention to the home. From the doorway, the smell of blood was sharp in the air. Pools and smears stained the floor near the entrance. Trails led up the stairs and along the walls. Every step revealed more signs of violence. A knife lay on the carpet, red along its blade. A meat tenderizer sat discarded in the hallway. Shell casings glimmered under the dim light. The silence of the house pressed heavily, broken only by the crunch of boots on the stained floor. In one room, they saw signs of a struggle, with furniture knocked aside and dark marks soaking into the carpet. No voices answered when they called out. No movement came from the rooms. The house was filled with evidence of horror, but the family themselves were nowhere to be found. The backyard discovery. With no bodies inside, the deputies stepped into the yard. The ground stretched wide, scattered with patches of dirt and weeds. Then they noticed the marks. Long streaks in the soil looked like something heavy had been dragged. The trail led away from the house and through a gate toward a shallow ravine. Moving carefully, the deputies followed it. There, hidden beneath branches and loose earth, they found them. 3 figures lay still: Adlai's father, his mother, and his younger sister. Each had suffered violent wounds. The scene was quiet, yet it carried a weight that could not be ignored. The deputies called it in, confirming what the suspect had already admitted. The discovery ended the search, but it raised a darker question. What had truly happened in the moments before their lives were taken? The interrogation begins. After being taken into custody, Adlai was placed in a small interview room. The walls were plain, the air heavy with silence. At first, he sat still, staring into the corner as if waiting for someone who was not there. When the detective entered, Adlai spoke quickly. His words came in fragments, jumping from one idea to another. He described hearing waves of sound, strange forces, and women in pain. He claimed he healed someone, then spoke of submarines and disasters only he could see. The detective tried to guide him back to the events in his home. Adlai admitted he shot his father in the living room and his mother near the stairs. He said his sister was struck through a wall. Yet, even as he spoke of these acts, his voice drifted toward visions of curses and hidden powers. The line between truth and delusion blurred with every sentence. Fragments of a disturbed mind.
Left alone in the room, Adlai muttered to himself. At times, he whispered. He raised his voice as though arguing with someone no one else could see. He spoke of angels, soldiers, and orders that had to be followed. He talked about capsules and containers, about voices that commanded him to act. His words spilled across the table, drifting from religion to conspiracy to visions of control. The detective returned and tried to calm him, but Adlai's focus had already slipped away. He begged to be released, then accused unseen figures of trying to kill him. The longer he stayed in the room, the more his reality fractured. He was no longer speaking only to the officers. He was locked in conversation with shadows that belonged to his own mind.
The sister's truth. The following day, investigators reached out to Adlai's older sister, Nancy Jr. She lived away from the family home and had not been there during the killings. When she was told the news, shock broke through her voice. She had expected trouble from her brother one day, but never the loss of her parents and younger sister. Nancy Jr. explained that Adlai had struggled with strange thoughts for years. Their mother often dismissed it, calling it possession rather than illness. She said their mother even found his medication hidden in the trash, proof he was not taking it. Stress in the house had been rising, especially between Adlai and his teenage sister. Nancy Jr. believed this tension, combined with his untreated condition, led to the breaking point. Her words gave investigators a painful glimpse into the storm that had been building inside their home. Evidence and autopsy. At the scene, deputies collected weapons and tools stained with blood. A pistol lay near the living room. A knife and a tenderizer were found discarded in the hallway. Shell casings were scattered through several rooms, clear signs of gunfire inside. Drag marks across the yard confirmed the bodies had been moved after death. Later, the medical examiner released the results. Adlai's father had been shot in the arm, chest, and the back of the head. His mother was struck in the back and suffered severe blunt force injuries to her face and body. His younger sister was killed by a bullet to the eye and multiple blows that broke her hand and bruised her skin. Each report revealed violence carried out at close range. Together, the findings showed a brutal end, one that could not be explained by confusion alone. Adlai's break with reality. As investigators tried to question him further, Adlai's grip on reality slipped away. He spoke of curses, waves of energy, and voices that ordered him to act. He claimed his family tried to kill him and that unseen forces had entered the home. At times, he seemed calm, even polite. Moments later, he shouted at the walls, demanding soldiers or angels reveal themselves. Deputies noted he had been treated only weeks earlier for hearing voices, but had been released after doctors judged him stable. Now, in custody, his behavior showed otherwise. He kicked a hole through a wall, tried to escape, and raved about powers that made him untouchable. It was clear the case was not only about murder, but about a mind unraveling in plain sight. In the end, 3 lives were taken in one afternoon. A father, a mother, and a daughter were buried, while their surviving son sat behind bars, lost inside his own fractured mind. The home that once held their laughter became a place of silence and blood. Neighbors who had known them for years struggled to understand how it had come to this. Investigators, too, were left with questions that could not be answered. The evidence was clear, yet the story behind it was tangled in delusion. A family was destroyed, and the truth may never be fully known.